what you just heard was the three simple but legendary riffs that every guitar player should know. I'm a guitar player based out of Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Stefan Lamar, and I'm going to show you how to play each of them. So, first one you heard was Sunshine of Your Love by Cream, the great Eric Clapton. Everybody should know some Eric Clapton. All right, so that first riff you heard is just a blues scale, but it's in D, right? So you think of the blues scale, we got that blues scale. We're going to play it a little different. We're going to shift a little bit when we do it, right? So we're going to start on the 12th fret of the D string, which is the fourth string. So we're going to use our picking hand to point to that. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we're going to start there. We're going to place our third finger of our fretting hand on that. And then we're going to play that fret and the 10th fret. So 12th fret, 10th fret. All right, that's the first half. And then we're going to go down to the A string, which is the 5th string. And we're going to play starting on the 12th fret of that string as well. I'm going to play the 12th, 11th, and 10th fret. We're going to use our third, second, and first finger. Right, so both being played together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Right, easy. All right, and then the last part of that, we're going to shift down to the 10th fret of the E string right here. And then we're going to play the 8th fret of the A string right here with our first finger. Right. So all together, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Right. And what's cool about that is that it teaches you how to shift. Right. So earlier I just showed you most people learn the blues scale. Most people learn it in that one position. Right. But this teaches you kind of how to shift. Right. And if you shift, right, you get kind of a cool line there just from using that particular shape. All right, and then the next riff we got is Seven Nation Army. Everybody knows this. This one we're gonna play a little different from Jack White. It's about the White Stripes, by the way. We're gonna play it starting on the 7th fret of the A string. All right. And we're going to place that third finger there, and then we're going to play the 5th fret of the D string with our first finger. Right, and then we're going to just use our first finger for the rest of it. So that's the first sequence right there. 1, 2, and 3, loud, we're going to go to that 5th fret right there. 1, 2, and 3, loud, and then we're going to go to the 3rd fret of the A string. 1, 2, 3, 4, down a half step to the 2nd fret with our first finger, right? Again, because you want to take all these lines and kind of use them into like being more creative, right? We don't want to just be limited to just playing it, right? The point of learning riffs in the first place is to get you to play music. So anyways, let's go to the last one. Last one is Smoke on the Water. Now, everybody learns this riff wrong. I learned it wrong. And I think primarily that was because I never really listened to the song. And I know a lot of you probably out there did listen to the song at first, maybe, right? I learned it like this. Yeah, completely wrong, right? So everybody uses the power chords, but really it's not a power chord. It uses double stops, right? Double stops are just 2 notes being played at once. It's not a chord. A chord has to be 3 notes, okay? A double stop is only 2. So it uses double stops, but just differently, right? So we're gonna take our 3rd and 4th finger and place those on the 5th fret of the D and the A string, right? You play something like that with our 2 fingers right there. So bringing that pinky in. Pinky doesn't get used a lot in a lot of music, but bringing that pinky in, right? And then we're going to go to the 3rd fret of the D and the G string. It's like a mini bar. It's an introduction to bars. If you're a beginner learning this, you know, it's like your introduction to bar chords. You're just going to bar 2 strings. And by the way, I think Richie Blackmore played this with his fingers, right? But you can use a pick too. You just have to be more accurate with where you're hitting that. Right? I'd be more accurate about it. And then the last part of that is, again, we're going to use the pinky and the third finger on the D and the G string. And then we go up a half step from that last one. So that's really how it's played, not that bar chord. I think a lot of it comes from the harmonics that you'll hear in the tone. When you have some gain, you hear that the harmonics of different notes that are not there come out, but really it's just being played with two notes, and there's no low note. Now, what's cool about that and how we can use that is this kind of comes from the blues scale in itself, right? The cool thing, that blue note that we add from a normal pentatonic, it kind of gives it a bit of tension. That's what's so great about that note in the blues scale. It adds tension to it. So if you think about that when we're playing that line, it's like almost like a surprise. Like, right, you think it's going to be the same thing twice. It's like a bit of tension added to that. So we can use that in our blues, right? So if you think of you playing a G blues in the same position, right? Right. So we're using it to go back down, you're using it to go up. That's how that note really works when it comes to the blues scale. It's really just a note that kind of like adds a bit of more attention to where you're going, right? So we just use the blues scale on Smoke on the Water, and we use it on Sunshine of Your Love, right? Now let's add what we know from Smoke on the Water to Sunshine of Your Love. Add the same kind of line underneath there, right? I'm using that same technique. Right. And then you get a bit of an interesting kind of sound, right? You can add it to the Jack White thing that we just did. This was a thing that guitar players kind of did to beef up, to add some more low end to their sounds. Instead of down tuning, sometimes we would just add the fifth below the note that we were playing. And that was the top 3 that I would say that every guitar player has to know. But yeah, thank you guys for joining in, and see you guys in the next one.